What a big night in American politics. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump met for the first presidential debate between the two of them. And actually, it was the first time they've ever even met. It was hosted by ABC News and it took place in Philadelphia. But there was someone else who stole the show, Taylor Swift, when she came out to endorse Kamala Harris after the debate, posting on Instagram. It's there that we pick up with Anthony and Sarah, who are in the spin room in Philadelphia. They watched the debate unfold and the aftermath as well.
The debate has concluded, the spinning in the spin room has concluded, and we're left to pick up the pieces as the people all around us start packing up all their gear.
And what a historic night, Anthony. Who thought we would be here in Philadelphia when the Taylor Swift endorsement came?
I'll never forget where I was.
Exactly. There were we watching 90 minutes of this debate and thinking that this was electoral history being made. And little did we know it was all about to drop on social media. Of course, it's exciting. We've been waiting a while for this to come along. I think it is important, though, as well, isn't it? This isn't just like celebrity taking over politics. Taylor Swift has huge reach to millions and millions and millions of fans and followers who do take quite seriously what she says on social media. But they're a really key demographic, aren't they? Young people and young women who you would expect probably to be voting for Kamala Harris, but who might not have been motivated to come out and vote if Taylor Swift wasn't maybe suggesting they ought to.
Yeah, Marianna, speak to us about young people and young women and Taylor Swift. What did you think of all of this? Tell us, how important is this going to be?
Yeah, Sarah, it was a shame that you weren't there at that moment, because I opened my phone up and one of the producers said, look at your phone, and I was like, wow, okay, Taylor Swift's hugging a cat and she's signed off as a childless cat lady. And yeah, I think, it's a big moment. Quite a few of the people who like Taylor Swift and follow Taylor Swift probably would have voted for Kamala Harris anyways, or wouldn't have voted for Donald Trump. But it does just really kind of put the election on the map, particularly for people who aren't maybe following along as avidly as people like us, and people who see this pop up on their Instagram feed or on their social media feeds, today, tonight, in the case of you guys, and think, oh, okay, I'm going to follow this election, or even I might go and vote for Kamala Harris. And I think that's the possible impact it could have.
And how many followers does she have, Marianna? I mean, it's like hundreds of millions, isn't it, of people who see it when she posts on social media. And if those are mostly young women who you wouldn't necessarily expect to be supporting Donald Trump, they are people who might go and vote now who wouldn't have done otherwise, might get involved in organising. This does put a real jolt of enthusiasm, I would imagine, through a certain section of the electorate. And of course, it's a good boost for the Harris campaign, isn't it? I mean, she obviously thought she had a very good night tonight. All the Democrats here in the media centre were very, very happy with her performance. So what a sort of moment of crowning glory that you get the biggest pop star in the world to come out for you just as you finish that debate. I mean, it's got to feel as though it's the icing on the cake, I would imagine, for the Harris campaign.
Let's talk a bit about the mood here, because, there is a sense among Democrats they're jubilant at Kamala Harris's performance. Republicans are defensive, accusing the moderators of gaming the system against them, saying Donald Trump still made his points. But you were out on the spin room floor. I was out on the spin room floor. What I was hearing, at least from Democrats, was that this was a very good night and they're going to enjoy this for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why the Harris campaign instantly said they wanted to do it again and put out a message saying, that was so much fun, let's do it again in October. And obviously, the Trump campaign was not agreeing to that in the moment. But of course, the big surprise was that instead of just all of those Republican surrogates, who, as you say, were being a bit defensive, Anthony, about Trump's performance, he turned up himself. Now, so he obviously thought he had quite a lot of work to do to try and spin the narrative after what had not been a great performance from him, if he's here talking to the media himself about it. And you had all the usual Trump bombast. It was his best debate performance yet. And the only reason the Harris campaign were asking for another debate was because they knew she'd done so badly, they needed a do-over, that they needed to do it again. But he wouldn't be here and he wouldn't be saying those things, frankly, if he believed any of those things.
Exactly. I think it was a move made reflecting the weakness of his performance, and he needed to get out there and change the narrative, to defend himself, to give a new set of sound bites that would supersede the ones that were going to be coming from the debate about him talking about Haitians in Ohio eating cats.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating they're eating the pets of the people that live there.
I mean, all of it was just, it wasn't the kind of debate performance that's going to help Donald Trump. He didn't take advantage of Kamala Harris's weaknesses. He didn't defend his own, particularly on things like abortion and January 6th, and, laying out how he would actually carry out the deportation plan that he's come up with. So, yeah, here he was, and you could just feel the energy. I mean, it felt like there was a giant black hole in the middle of the spin room, and everyone who wasn't tied down to something or holding onto a table was getting sucked in towards it. Actually, I had a great time going around talking to all the other surrogates who were just kind of standing there. I mean, the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, had no one around him. There were members of Congress just kind of standing there staring at the walls while everyone in this room was around Donald Trump. So, for those of us who actually like to have conversations with politicians, that was a really good moment.
Yeah, that sounds like a really smart move, because I was sucked into the black hole, and that meant I was wedged between a couple of Australian cameramen, couldn't hear a word that Donald Trump was saying, also couldn't talk to Justin, who I was trying to record an interview with for the Today programme, and really achieve very little other than being able to see sort of in the far distance a shock of blonde hair in the middle of all these cameras. Do you know what I would like to do is go back and watch that debate without the sound on. I mean, sometimes people say the pictures are distracting. Maybe you should just listen to the audio only of a debate if you want to hear what people are saying. I think the body language and the facial reactions of the candidates were probably the most interesting thing that happened. Watching Donald Trump sort of quietly fuming, trying to keep his temper, occasionally sort of smirking a little bit, but really clearly being rattled by Kamala Harris's different attacks was absolutely fascinating. He wouldn't look at her at all. He'd obviously been told to make sure he didn't, explode with temper, and he was sort of barely keeping it in. Well, she looked strong, confident, arguably a little bit strident, sometimes too smiley. I thought, she didn't look as though she was always necessarily taking it quite seriously enough, danger of looking a little bit smug. But yeah, I think it was all in the body language in this debate.
Yeah, she laughed after the eating the pets thing, which I think she probably could have come out and said, that's super weird or something, like, reinforce one of their campaign messages. But just from the get-go, she came across the stage, reached out her hand and shook Donald Trump's hand and introduced herself, because they never met in person. But that was like setting the scene.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thank you.
And then, obviously, Joe Biden in that first debate in June, whenever the camera wasn't on him and Donald Trump was talking, he had the kind of open mouth, vacant look on his face. Kamala Harris clearly rehearsed the kind of arched eyebrows, quizzical, bemused look whenever Donald Trump was talking. And then when she was talking, Donald Trump, like you said, just sat there and scowled and looked angry, and his eyes were two little slits. So from a body language perspective, I think that tells you a lot about how the debate was going and the strategy behind the Kamala Harris campaign to kind of paint her as the one who's cool and collected and in charge. And it made every one of the jabs that pushed Donald Trump up, higher, 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 spinning more and more in kind of an angry rage. And it just highlighted that difference and made it all the more pronounced.
Yeah, absolutely. This was the prosecutor that she is, with all of those kind of courtroom skills, prosecuting the case against Donald Trump and doing it quite aggressively, but pretty effectively, I think.
So, Marianna, from the other side of the pond, were you picking up at all on the body language and on the way this campaign, this debate played out, words aside?
Yeah, I think this is a helpful moment to bring in my favourite people, the undercover voters, because I've been looking at how this has been unfolding on their social media feeds. And exactly what you've both been saying, really, those moments of laughter or reaction or looking at the camera or responding to one another tend to be the things that have been popping up on the social media feeds of the voters, whether you love Donald Trump or whether you love Kamala Harris or you don't like either of them or know who you're going to vote for. And I think that tells us about the kinds of clips that go viral. It's the reactions and the emotion and the person that often succeed in getting kind of picked up by and pushed by the algorithm, as opposed to policy points, or it's the stuff that is very unusual, for example, the cat-eating unfounded claims and things like that also get a lot of traction. It doesn't tend to be those more nuanced kind of points about policy or the bits that people might think are a bit boring, and maybe that doesn't come as much of a surprise. And just to really quickly bring it back to Taylor Swift, because you left me a question, Sarah. You said, how many followers does she have? She has 283 million Instagram followers, and already her Instagram post endorsing Kamala Harris has had 3.7 million likes. It was posted a couple of hours ago now. And interestingly, I just had another message from a Swiftie who said to me, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I'm not surprised, but I thought she'd do it closer to the election. Just to bring it back to Taylor Swift again, are you guys surprised about the timing? Did you think it would be later?
Well, I wonder if, I mean, it could have been a bigger moment for the Harris campaign, I guess, if they sort of unveiled her at a surprise rally or something like that. I think it's probably clear it's not coordinated between them, that Taylor Swift did this without necessarily talking to the campaign about it. Maybe she'll appear, maybe I'll have to go to every Kamala Harris rally between now and the election, just in case there's a Taylor Swift cameo appearance, you never know.
I mean, it's possible she got caught up in the moment. You know, she saw the debate and was like, oh, I really want to be a part of this. And so she did that. And maybe it will help focus the attention of her supporters, of her fans, on what is going to be really a wealth of positive news coverage for Kamala Harris. So if there's a strategy behind it, I think that's probably it. And people have been pouring through the likes on her Instagram posts, looking at various celebrities, you know, who have been in favor, you know, who have been liking this and offering their support. So it's kind of an interesting list of people. Caitlin Clark, I think, the basketball player, she liked it.
Yeah, there's
so
loads,
it might tell
Anthony.
you a little bit more about some endorsements that are going to come out.
Yeah, there's so I was just looking at it. You've got people like Blake Lively, Lady Gaga, Chrissy Teigen, Selena Gomez, Jennifer Aniston, people who kind of are often interacting with Taylor Swift on social media too. But it does show the kinds of people that are of this, particularly perhaps not liking the childless cat lady stuff too.
Yeah, and that presumably that means when people like that, who also have millions of followers and a huge fan base themselves, like things like that, that means it's travelling sort of pretty much across the internet, doesn't it, Marianna?
Yeah,
you understand these things better than I.
No, it does. It means it boosts the algorithm, really. So these people have got huge numbers of followers, and when if they reshare it, that obviously just directly shares it to more people. But if they like it, it kind of boosts the algorithm in people's feeds. So there'll be a lot of people going to bed who the first thing at the top of their Instagram feeds will be this post. And it's interesting that that's where Taylor Swift has chosen to post this as well. It's now obviously spreading to all kinds of other social media sites where people are giving their takes, and this is where the Swiftie army come in, because they'll then be screen grabbing it and commenting on it and sharing all their own takes on TikTok or other places, and that helps to spread it far and wide. Again, unsure how many Trump supporters that will necessarily reach, because, for example, my undercover voters that are right-leaning, they're not necessarily on the side of, we call it, social media where Taylor Swift would be popping up. But I have already seen on Apolitical Gabriella's feed that she has had the Taylor Swift stuff pop up. So that maybe tells us that it's the undecided people, the people kind of thinking, oh, I'm not sure how I think, who might be getting this kinds of content.
And Sarah, that's something that, you know, those of us who have covered politics a long time look for, because sometimes we can get in our bubble and we fixate on every little permutation of the race, and we forget that there are millions, tens of millions of people who just are not tuning into politics and not really paying attention. And it is those stories and those moments that break into the wider consciousness that have resonance and actually affect politics. And Biden's debate performance definitely became a bigger story than just, oh, another presidential debate. And maybe this will help elevate Kamala Harris's performance so that it's on the radar of people who were not sitting down in front of their TV exactly at 9 o'clock Eastern time to watch the debate and laugh and point and say all the things with their friends that they were thinking, but the people who were not tuned in, but now are going to see these clips and see these moments, and it's going to start to pull them a little more into this race in the next 2 months.
I didn't think Kamala Harris had any standout kind of zingy one-liners. I thought maybe she would have rehearsed a couple more like that. So although she put in a very strong performance, and for my money was the clear victor of this debate, I can't think of sort of just one or two neat lines that sum up how well she did. So I don't, yes, I mean, presumably there are some amusing ones of Donald Trump that'll travel. Yeah, I don't know what you would pull out of it as to demonstrate how she managed to rattle Donald Trump. There's maybe one about how he's disrespected on the world stage and all the autocrats and dictators in the world want him re-elected so they can manipulate him. But
right, and the crowd size and the people leaving at the end of his rallies, you know, because they're bored. That amped up his anger level noticeably.
I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies.
And for all that Donald Trump's complaining that he got a hard time from the moderators, they let him chip in far more often than she managed to. I mean, there were several occasions when they were supposed to move on to the other topic, and he insisted on grabbing an extra couple of minutes and getting the last word on almost everything, as he was so insistent on getting in, and they weren't able to stop him, although I'm not sure it did him particularly any good.
No, exactly. I mean, letting him talk, I think, may have been a sign that they were tilting the playing field in favor of Kamala Harris, not helping him out. But I mean, this is we'll see where the campaign goes from here. But I think it was a very historic night, an eventful night, a night that I think the Harris campaign is going to be really thrilled with. We'll see if they can take advantage of that in the days ahead.
Now, before we go, I should direct you that if you want to know more about any of this, do go to the BBC News website, because there you'll find detailed BBC analysis on the latest polling, who's ahead in the swing states and all that kind of thing by our data journalism colleagues. Have a look for US election polls, who's ahead, Harris or Trump.
And as always, you can get in touch with us in a variety of different means. You can join our online community at Discord. The link is in the description of this podcast. You can send us a message or a voice note via WhatsApp, +44 330 123 9480. Email americast@bbc.co.uk, or reach us on social media with #Americast.